Everybody, thank you for coming to this sponsor session on FreeMoodle. I don't know if Stuart's happy for me to say this or not, but we're actually very keen and asked Stuart to be a sponsor for FreeMoodle. It's a fantastic project and one I think needs more attention and needs to be highlighted more. And I guess I don't want to steal any of Stuart's thunder. So Stuart, I'll pass the floor to you, and thank you very much for presenting again.
Thanks, Julian. Thank you for sorting out my room as well, which wasn't working 15 minutes ago. It kind of shows how good these guys are at Pukunui and behind the iMoot and the big blue button guys, that you can have a room that's not working 15 minutes ago and now it's all perfect. So, you know, outstanding performance really by those guys. Yeah, okay, so we've got a number of people here, and if I go back to my chat, I can see that we've got people from New Zealand and South America. What else did we have? Australia. Well, someone's been to all four moots. Anna, that's why I know your name. You've been to all four moots. Well, that's iMoot. That's fantastic. California. That's just made me instantly jealous. I wish I hadn't read that now. I'm sure that it's beautiful over there. Definitely one of my favourite places. Been to the Moodle Moot in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Always a great excuse to get to America and California. Okay, so I think we'll make a start. I'm all branded up. I've got my sort of logo shirt on, and I've got my Moodle mug, which is, you know, I mean, this has got to be a good luck charm, I think. I'm gonna turn my camera off here. You know who I am now. That's cool. And I said yesterday in one of the other presentations that, you know, everywhere else in the world is kind of uphill from New Zealand, so we don't have great bandwidth in New Zealand, and I'm doing this from home, which is a long way from the big city of Auckland. So I know that the internet isn't always that good here, so I'm going to save some bandwidth, turn my camera off, but keep the microphone going, obviously. Okay. So hopefully everyone can hear okay. This is a new headset. Seemed to work quite well yesterday, though. So, FreeMoodle. Yeah, okay. Feel free to. I think one of the great features, actually, of this iMoot has been how much chat has been going alongside the presentation. And it's really interesting because, of course, sometimes that's tightly related to what the presenter's saying, and other times it kind of goes off into discussions about Doctor Who or Monty Python. You know, you had computers, or we were lucky to have a computer. You know, we had an abacus and had to perform 3D model rendering. So it's really quite interesting for the presenters, I think, to watch the wider discussions going on there. Okay, FreeMoodle. So in this presentation, if you've been to a presentation about FreeMoodle before, either at the iMoot or at one of the many Moodle Moots around the world that we go to and talk about these sorts of things, this will be an update for you. If you've never heard of this, then hopefully this will be quite an interesting and different kind of project. So this is what I'm going to cover. Why we started it, how it's set up and organised, the policies around the site, learner support, challenges, and future direction. And I want to throw a question out at you to begin with that I'd like you to come back at the end and answer for me. The title for this session is freemoodle.org, Free Moodle Hosting. And I want you to tell me at the end whether that title is an accurate enough description of what this actually is. So by the end of this half hour or 3/4 of an hour, you will actually understand what this project is about, and you'll be able to tell me whether that title is appropriate. Because I have a feeling that for people that aren't interested in hosting, they possibly don't this presentation doesn't come up on their radar, and maybe it needs to be renamed and thought of slightly differently. Okay, so that's your question to think about, to feedback at the end for me. So, quickly, just in case you don't know who I am or who we are, we've been a Moodle partner since 2006 here in New Zealand. You can find out general information about who we are and what we do. We're probably best known, perhaps, certainly in the community, for our online courses for teachers and designers and administrators. And we've just launched a new one for MySQL, so people who want to write reports in MySQL and interrogate the database in Moodle to get more information out than the reports can give you. And we're also in discussion about a developer's course as well. Oh, and the other one that's missing, of course, is Miriam, who's been presenting here on Second Life and things, but she's our theme guru and actually runs a Moodle Bytes course for theme designers, showing you how to design your own themes. So that's probably what we're best known for in the community. We do a number of other things as well. We've got a site there called dev.moodlebytes.com, and that's there really to help people understand the plugins in Moodle. Although you can go to the plugins and modules area on moodle.org, and it'll give you a nice description and tell you what it does. For most teachers, they can't sort of download that and install it because they don't have the power to do that. You know, only administrators can do that. So on that site, we have about 50 plugins that are actually working, that a teacher can go along and have a look at and have a play with. And we're trying to get that back up to 100. We used to have 100 in the days of Moodle 1.9. As you can appreciate, it actually takes quite a bit of time to install and test plugins and make sure they work. And maintaining a site with 50 different plugins when you upgrade Moodle is actually a bit of a challenge, but we seem to do all right. So that might be a useful site if you're interested in plugins and extending Moodle. We have a number of other things that we do. We organise the Moodle Moot in New Zealand each year. I think we've been doing it for about the last 6 years now. And we have people, you know, our friends and the people that we know are real strong in Moodle, you know, the Julians of the world, the Shanes of the world, Gavin, who I'm not sure if he's here. We have all these people come over and you know, use them as presenters and use their knowledge and get that spread around the Moodle community. We also have 5 at the moment. I think we've got 5 PHMs, which if you're on moodle.org, you know, people can kind of rate the posts of people who are helping. And when you get to a certain ratio and you maintain that and you get lots of good responses, then you get this PHM designation, which, as Martin said in his keynote, will no doubt be a badge at some point in the future, perhaps quite soon. So I'm really proud to say this, that we've got 5. We've got more than any other organisation in the world. And, you know, we're not the biggest Moodle partner by a long way. So to have 5 people that are recognised as PHMs is something that I'm eternally proud of. And I don't say this enough to people and other people involved. So we've got Mary L, who's over. So these are the sort of main people involved with us at the moment. We've got Mary L over in Mexico, who's given some great presentations here at the iMoot, and is obviously a native Spanish speaker, so helps coordinate all our work in Latin America and South America. Paula over in the US there, who's been working with us specifically on FreeMoodle, which is fantastic. We've got Anna, located in Greece, who kind of coordinates our work around Europe and the Middle East. And then over in New Zealand, people like Teresa, who has given a number of presentations and is probably going to win the award for most badges at the iMoot. She's got a real compulsive streak about her, and she's been collecting badges like crazy. Teresa also is one of the top testers for Moodle. So when new versions are released, she's one of the people that really gets in there and tests it and gives feedback. So that's brilliant. And Miriam, who has presented just recently this afternoon, I think, on Second Life and Moodle or Sloodle. And Miriam's also one of the facilitators for the Moodle themes area on Moodle.org. So, you know, a really good team, and it's a huge pleasure every day and every week for me to work with these people. So, my question here then is, why would anyone provide free hosting for Moodle? And I don't know whether anyone wants to take a stab in the chat and actually come up with an idea about why we might provide free hosting for Moodle. That's a bit mean, isn't it? I'm putting you on the spot there. That's not fair. Let me illustrate, because you can. Interesting point, mate. Because we can. Well, yeah, we have the capability and the knowledge. I think you're right. Not everyone obviously has that. Craziness. That might be even more accurate, to be honest, Susie. Yeah, creates community. I definitely, but that community word is definitely something that we're aiming at. Okay, so let's look at what happens on Moodle.org, because there are often discussions on Moodle.org from people saying, is there anywhere we can host courses for free? That might be a teacher who's working at a school that won't use Moodle or can't use Moodle. It might be an independent trainer that's just trying to understand, you know, the whole world of e-learning and Moodle. Lots of discussions around, is there anywhere for free that we can do this? And if you look at those discussions, and some of these are old and some of them are current, it might be that yes, you can, but there's a limit. You know, there's a quite a small limit on how much you can upload. Or yes, you can, but in fact, it's actually going to cost a little bit of money. Or others might be free to begin with, but since promoting a free service, have actually changed to a paid service. In other cases, it may be that yes, you can host for free, but you'll have lots of adverts. However, if you pay, then we can get rid of the adverts. And you know, other sorts of discussions around these things. Now, I'm going to say that there are a number of issues around that type of free hosting, and the first one is, I think, you know, we can question: is it really free, or is it some kind of loss leader to a charged service? Now, I don't have any problem with anyone in business providing something for free and then having a higher level of service which is charged for, and you see that all the time. You can see it with Flickr. You know, you can get, well, now you can get a terabyte of files, and then, you know, if you want more space, you can pay. The same with Dropbox. You know, you can get 2 gig for free. You can get some extra little freebies, but if you want 100 gig, then you're going to pay for that. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's obviously a hugely successful business model on the internet. However, where I do have an issue with it is in an area like a Moodle.org forum, where people are saying, yes, this is free, no problem, get involved, and then it becomes a paid service, because that's actually just misleading, and it does happen from time to time. The other group of free hosting offers, I think, are in general kind of from an enthusiastic individual. And again, you can see examples of this. There's perhaps someone who's working at a university, he finds Moodle, thinks it's fantastic, wants to encourage people around the world to use it. He has some server space available on the university servers that are hidden away and no one really knows where they are. And he sort of says, you know, I'll host your courses for free with me. Well, that's really nice. But as a user, as someone running those courses, you have to, I think, you know, is it scalable? You know, that might be all right for 10 users or 20, but what if we get 1,000? Is it actually sustainable You know, if they have 100 or 200 or 500 teachers taking them up on that offer, how are they going to support that? And what about the costs in the future? And where is it going long term? You know, what about when that person leaves the university and doesn't have any space available, doesn't have the facility to do that? What position are you in then? So there's lots of questions that naturally you should be asking yourself whenever we see free hosting. You know, generally, and you know, if it's too good to be true, generally it is. You know, and no more so than on the internet. Free things are fairly rare, and you really have to try and look behind what's happening, I think. So, I guess the big question then is, why on earth are we doing this? Why would we do this? I'll start by giving you the main reason, and on a personal level, the most important reason. I know some of you who are here today know this story all too well. This is my wife, Heidi Foxwell, and Heidi passed away 2 years ago after actually a very short battle with cancer once it was diagnosed. So this is a young lady who had who, when I met her, she'd been in the Royal Navy in the UK for 14 years, and then we got married, and we actually got married in Vegas. Can you believe it? We got married in Vegas, and then the year after that, we emigrated to New Zealand. And no, I did want to dress as Elvis, but I can tell you I would never have got away with that. It would have been the shortest wedding ceremony ever. So Heidi had been in the Royal Navy, and then when we came to New Zealand, I sort of took the time to build a server, something I'd always wanted to do. Had a little bit of time to do that. And Heidi went out one day, and she'd heard me talking about Linux. And at that time, I was very much a Microsoft boy. You know, MCSEs and Microsoft servers and so on. And she'd heard me talking all about Linux, and she went out and bought me a book on Linux from Dick Smith's or Tandy or Radio Shack or whatever it's called in your part of the world, on Mandrake, which later became Mandriva, and that's just a distribution of Linux. So I put Linux on this server that I'd built, and I thought, what am I going to investigate now? I decided to investigate online learning, and that's when I found Moodle, and that's when it all started. So quite literally, I would not even be involved with e-learning and Moodle if it hadn't been for Heidi going out that day and saying, here's your book, now stop just talking about it and do something with it. Heidi was very involved as well with our organisation. I mean, she was the co-director of our company. She was the first PHM in our company, so she was the first person to get that accolade of being a particularly helpful Moodler on Moodle.org, and that kind of inspired everyone else around to go, we should do that as well. We should make more effort on Moodle.org and get to that level. She was also actually the first person in the world to be an MCCC. MCCC, yeah, that's right, which she was incredibly proud of. And in fact, from that point, she then started to work with us, with all the other Moodle partners around the world, actually helping them develop, you know, Moodle certification in their country. And yes, she was a mentor assessor for a number of people. Cheryl, that's cool. I'd forgotten that. But also Mary L and Anna, people who are recognised in the Moodle community worldwide now. You know, had been helped by Heidi. And the thing about Heidi is she had this very genuine need and desire and just natural kind of personality to help other people. And that was a change for me, because I'd always been very kind of business orientated and entrepreneurial and out there and doing things. But I can't say that I always cared very much about other people. I was probably quite a selfish person at that time. So FreeMoodle.org, as you can see, thank you. FreeMoodle.org freemoodle.org, as you will see, is very much inspired by Heidi, and I make no apologies ever for taking the time to acknowledge that. So the idea behind freemoodle.org, excuse me, is to create a learning destination for the world. So we have a single site with thousands of courses and teachers contributing and collaborating with Moodle on any topic, and learners can get in there at any time for free and learn something. And I did this little logo there, or little collection of logos. You know, these, when we think about where we're going to share our photos, or let's go to Flickr, how are we going to keep up with friends or Facebook? How are we going to look up a bit of information on Wikipedia? And what I want to do is position kind of FreeMoodle in there, in with that amazing group of applications and sites that everyone knows. And so when someone thinks, I just want to do a quick course in something, I just want to learn about something in a reasonably structured way from someone who really knows what they're talking about, I'd like them to think FreeMoodle in the same way that they think Flickr or Amazon or WordPress. You know, that's where we're aiming. And that, when I look at that little image, I do think that's probably the most outrageous and ambitious claim or target that I could possibly have thought of. But I always also operate on the fact that unless you set the targets really high, you know, your achievement level is lower down. You know, yeah, absolutely. If we think huge, if we think really big, then perhaps we can achieve something reasonable. You know, and if I'd set reasonable objectives, perhaps I'd just achieve something, you know, barely passable. So, so the aim here is definitely aiming high. Yeah. So what is it? Well, it's basically for anyone that wants to learn something. But it's not for private courses. You know, if you're running courses and these are just for your students, or this is just for your company, then this isn't the place to host it. It's not for closed or private courses. I've said it's not a free option for commercial organisations, although it could be if you're happy to share everything. So if you were a not-for-profit organisation dealing with environmental training, if you're happy for the rest of the world to see that material, then absolutely you can put it on here. But you couldn't have those courses just for your own internal staff. Yeah, I think it's fairly. I think that's a fairly straightforward criteria. And I do have to say that it's not a place for teachers to learn how to use Moodle or for training courses about Moodle. I mean, we do get, you know, requests for that, and I you know, we just say, you know, there's a million resources out there by now on how to use Moodle, and we don't want to turn this into a Moodle training site. Hi Teresa, nice to see you. Yes, you did miss the pictures of Heidi, but we can go back and look at that later if you want. So the freemoodle.org site, that's the kind of URL, you know, www.freemoodle.org, and it's a fairly standard Moodle interface at this point. We do have some ideas and thoughts around this, as we'll come on to them. And the way the site's organised is, first of all, we took the decision that it would be multilingual from day one. Which created some challenges, and we'll talk about those. We wanted the site to offer support for both teachers and for learners. We wanted it to be as standard a Moodle environment as possible, and that's so people could take their courses away from this site if they wanted to. So if you're a teacher and you develop a course on freemoodle.org, at any point in time you can back that course up yourself and you can take it away. There is nothing stopping you doing that. And I guess this harks back to the theme of the conference about being open. You know, this is truly open. No one's going to stop you moving if that's what you want to do. That's fine. We do have lots of themes installed, and we're really happy to make as many themes as people want available there. We have one non-standard plugin at the moment, which is the certificates plugin. And that was just because we had a lot of people very early on saying, you know, that's a really useful plugin and will we be able to have it? And I think it was at the time that Julian was maintaining that certificate module, and there's some good improvements there. So yeah, that's the one non-standard module we have. After the last few days, I can tell you we're definitely going to have badges. I'll come back to that. And the organisation of the site itself actually mirrors Moodle.net. Now, Moodle.net is still not on everyone's radar because Moodle.net is the new name for Mooch, which was the Moodle Open Course Hub, where people could share courses. Moodle.net is the new version of that, and it uses a category system, and we've matched the categories on FreeMoodle.org to that system. That makes it easy for people to publish courses, for example, and we'll talk about that. So a kind of natural question at that point might be, well, how is this different from Moodle.net? Well, Moodle.net will allow anyone to view a list of courses and perhaps download those courses. Now, if an administrator downloaded those courses or a course, they could install it on their Moodle site, you know, pretty easily. But if for an average teacher to download a course is kind of a redundant exercise, because most of them couldn't then just install it on a server. There are also other courses which are listed on Moodle.net that aren't available for download, but are just basically pointers to other courses. Some of those courses may be free, some of those courses may be commercial and have a fee. That's quite different to what we're doing here on FreeMoodle.org, which is providing a course or courses for teachers to develop their own content and share and collaborate. They can download that course at any time, and anyone can view that course at any time. So it is significantly different. Although the closer we can keep them aligned, I think the better for future development. You know. Development environment as opposed to delivery point. Yeah, that could be one perspective on it. We do have a site policy. This gets reviewed from time to time. Obviously, when we started off, it was kind of pretty straightforward. You know, it said you can put a course on here, and as long as it's open, blah blah blah. That site policy gets reviewed from time to time and changed as we get challenged with new ideas and new questions from teachers, or new, you know, we just need to constantly be revisiting that site policy. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. You know, we don't want to turn it into the iTunes and use a license agreement or anything. We want to keep it really nice and simple. We have, as I said, an area for teacher support. I think that's important because, of course, people finding this site aren't necessarily teachers who are familiar with Moodle right now. Moodle could be quite new to them. Maybe it's in their school, they've not quite used it yet, or maybe they've just heard of a colleague in a different school using it. They may never have used Moodle before. So if this is their starting point, then we actually need to provide them with some support around, you know, how to create a certificate, how to use groups and groupings within a course, how to publish your course across to Moodle.net. And we have obviously support forums and so on. I think it's really important that we don't assume every teacher coming to this site is actually already competent with Moodle, because that is not the case. I'd say the majority are. We also have an area for learner support. This is a little bit of a frustration for me. This is we have learners coming to this site who may never have used e-learning before. They may never have encountered Moodle before. We can't assume that they're instantly going to know how to study online or how to move around a Moodle course. So I want this nice, friendly, accessible, and we called it a learners club. It used to be called a study club, and I thought, no, that's the wrong term. It's just a club for learners. And we pulled this material together quite quickly from a whole range of other things that we've done. But I'd really like someone who's an expert, or at least a willing enthusiast, someone who's quite focused on how learners learn online, and someone who obviously understands Moodle, to actually revisit this area and make it far more useful and far more targeted to the learning experience. I think that would be a big improvement that all the teachers and all the students on FreeMoodle could actually use. I threw this little picture into one of the other presentations, and it was so popular that it's made a comeback in this presentation. I think open badges is definitely going to be something that we want to use. When we make open badges available for teachers to use on freemoodle.org, I also think it's going to be really important to have badges for the teachers. So this afternoon, I just found a little badge creation site and created that little freemoodle.org contributor badge. And that's the sort of thing that we could give to teachers who are actively running courses successfully. That would be quite nice to have that on your backpack or your Mahara or wherever you're going to publish that, and to say that I'm a contributor on freemoodle.org, and maybe that's one of the ways that we can market and promote this site quite easily in quite a cool way as well. So I'm probably going to get Miriam to design the badges because she's a better designer than I am these days. But that wasn't a bad first attempt for half an hour. I'm going to move into some sort of controversial little areas here, because the question of quality comes up, doesn't it? If we've got a site that's allowing 500 teachers to basically do whatever they want, and that's public, if 400 of those teachers are doing things that aren't very good, and members of the public, potential learners, wander across this site and find lots of things that aren't very good, then clearly that detracts from the overall project. At the same time, I'm also very strong on the fact that I don't want us to be policing. I don't want us to be the gatekeeper. I mean me and our organisation. Just because we're enabling this to happen, I don't think that I also want us to be controlling the quality necessarily. There are certain things obviously we'd want to take out, that are inappropriate, but in terms of judging what's going on. So I'm kind of looking to the things that are happening in social networking. Yeah, it's a good point, Lindy, absolutely. I mean, with so many different materials and approaches, who can judge what is right? I certainly don't want to self-appoint myself or anyone else around me to do that. So we can look to some of the things that are happening on the wider internet and in the kind of social networking space. And, you can look at the very simple stuff on Facebook. People like or dislike things. You can look on YouTube, the way people are allowed to comment on movies. You could look at some of the other systems like Amazon, which has this kind of 5-star rating. And if books are really good, they obviously get a higher rating over time from people. Same with the IMDb for movies. TripAdvisor, of course, I think is actually a really nice model where people are writing comments and giving marks out of 10. So I would really like to see teachers rating each other's courses and the users and the public rating these courses. Now, I've said that's controversial because I'm pretty sure there's no way you would ever want that running in your university or your school next term. It would be a very politically charged kind of thing to do. It's obviously not for every site. However, I think in this case that it's appropriate. And we're having these discussions now about how we do this. At the moment, we're running a very simple system, which is from one of the plugins on the on Moodle.org, which is the rate a course, and that basically simply allows users to give a rating to a course, you know, on a scale of kind of 1 to 5. Quick drink there, and it is water, I promise. Obviously, over time, as 50 users or 100 users rate this course, it will probably at least give some indication of whether this course is any good or not. And that means that someone discovering the site and looking at 3 courses on, let me pick Julian's subjects, 3 courses on history, that if people can rate those, then someone coming along new can look at the ratings of those 3 courses and say, well, that one's got a 5 and that one's got a 1. I'm going to start with the 5. You know, actually make it easier for people to find things of use. So that's the idea, clearly, behind this kind of social ratings. We can, of course, encourage the use of comments blocks and forums. At the moment, we have implemented this sticky block rating system. So essentially, that's old 1.9 Moodle 1.9 terminology, sticky block. We've basically got a block. That Amazon 5-star rating block appears on every course, and teachers cannot take it out. Some people might not be happy with that. If they're not happy with that, don't create your course on the site. You know, I mean, that's the situation there, I'm afraid. We do have more advanced systems as well, into options instead of the 5-star system. There is another plugin developed by, I'm pretty sure this is Jenny. No, it's not Jenny at the OU. This is someone else. But this is the course awards block, which is much more sophisticated and has kind of 4 stars, but is also color coded. And I think we'll have numbers as well, because it's been picked up that the colour coding isn't really fully accessible. So people that are colourblind don't actually get those cues from that. But people can write their comments there as well, and teachers can see the comments, and courses can actually be awarded a medal. So if you have a course which, you know, achieves 10 people who've rated the course 9 or higher, you can actually give that course a medal. Which is a block in this case. So clearly a little bit like the kind of badges initiative, but here we're talking about giving the course or the content a public recognition of being good. And you know, that's quite an interesting concept, certainly something that would fit with what we're trying to achieve here. At the moment on the front page, we have just a simple featured course glossary. So, you know, the standard random glossary block, and it links to a glossary which has got little extracts, and it turns over every day or every time you visit the course. So therefore, it's like a featured course glossary. I'm sure some people are probably looking at the site right now at the same time, and if you refresh your screen, you know, you'll see a different entry. That's great. But once we have a system that is rating courses, then perhaps we can be a bit more clever with that. And on the front page, instead of just a randomly selected entry, maybe we could have rotating the top 10 rated courses right now, or the top 20 rated courses this month. You know, it gives us an ability to kind of apply a bit of, you know, programmability or a bit of a smart function from the database, and bring that forward and make it into something useful. I think that could be quite interesting if we've actually got a dynamic system working on the ratings that people are giving. Once we started this site, and bear in mind, you know, we started this site on an inspiration, and for me, starting this site as some way to create something positive from pretty much the worst situation I could have ever imagined in my life. Trying to create something something positive from that, because at the end of the day, that's who Heidi was. Everyone who knows Heidi knows that incredibly positive person, achieved a hell of a lot in her life, and this is a way of keeping that philosophy and that energy going, in a productive way. However, it quickly became apparent, even within a month or two, that we were going to have to be very clever in the way we monitored this site and managed it. And it's quite a challenge. It's a very different challenge from having a school where you would know every user. Even in a university, you would probably be able to track and understand every user. On this site, it's literally anyone from around the world. It could be a child, it could be an old age pensioner, someone that's retired, it could be a professor, it could be someone who's never used e-learning before, it could be a teacher who's a world expert in e-learning. We really don't know who the people are, and that creates its own challenges. So this is a little example of how one of the things that kind of caught us out in the early days is we allowed everyone, well, in Moodle, you'll know that when you set up a course, you can choose to force the language of your course. So if you're teaching a course in English, in your course settings, you can say, force English for this course. Now, that's not actually a needed setting in a way, because you will see the course in your own language, that's fine. Anyone visiting the Moodle site will see the course in the language of their operating system or browser or what they've set on their profile. So they'll see it in the right language. The only time you really need to think about forcing language is if, for example, you were teaching Spanish and you wanted the whole course to work in Spanish. So language teaching specifically. Because the problem here is that, just as this little example, someone set their course to be forced language BR. I think that's Portuguese Brazilian, or something like that. And we had a help desk request to say something is not working in my course, so we wanted to go and look at it and to help. And of course, once we got in there, every single menu was in Portuguese because the course had been forced to Portuguese. Now I can tell you, we can find our way around a Portuguese site with our very, very bad Spanish. But when someone does that in Chinese, we were completely unable to help within their course because we didn't have anyone speaking Chinese that could even navigate the menus properly anymore. So one of the few changes we've made to core is we've taken away the ability for teachers to force the language within a course. But it just kind of shows that you don't know what the challenges are going to be until you actually get there and start using it. It's fun, it's interesting. So over time, we've seen the activity on the site go up. The number of teachers and students and guests. We allow guest access everywhere, so those numbers are growing, and that's very encouraging. That's what we'd want to see. We can also report on things like which courses are most popular, and we can obviously look at weighted or unweighted. We can look during the last 3 months or 12 months to get an idea of where the users actually are and a little bit about what the site's doing at a very high level. But we needed to get a lot more depth on the reports, and I'm just sharing this because if you are in a situation where you need more information, then some of these things are absolutely brilliant tools. First of all, you've got the information about the logs in Moodle, and they do provide a lot of information. And the site-wide reports, of course, which administrators can see. And then there are a number of plugins that I would highly recommend you can use. Custom SQL queries will allow you to write queries within Moodle using the structured query language of the MySQL database, and you can extract all types of useful information from that. You do, however, need to understand how to write MySQL queries. Adminer, kind of similar situation. this replaces what's been popular for quite a few years, which is the PHP MyAdmin plugin. This is actually the recommended plugin for Moodle now, Adminer, for a number of different reasons. And then configurable reports, which is developed by Juan over in Spain. And I had the pleasure of meeting Juan at the Moodle Moot in Madrid last year. What a nice guy, incredibly clever guy. Juan is actually the person who's developed the new Moodle mobile app. So, you know, it gives you some idea of how talented and clever this guy is. And he's developed this configurable reports drop-in or plugin, which again can allow you to report on your Moodle site in a lot more depth. And the nice thing is you don't necessarily need any knowledge of SQL to do this. It can be very menu-driven with little drop-downs. I'm going to skip past that one because I'm already talking about drop-downs. So this is configurable reports, and as you can see, it's just a normal interface. You don't have to write code necessarily here. You can say, I want a user report, or I want a course report, you know, show me which courses are most active, or a user report, show me all the users that have logged in the last 3 months, you know, but only logged in once, you know, maybe that tells us something. So incredibly powerful, these things, and that reporting aspect rather vital for us when we don't know who we've got on the site. And it's been so important that we've actually now built a little interface to these reports, so that at any time the people within our organisation who've got the capability, they can just go straight to this report, which is people logged in during the last 120 days, and they can either view it or edit it or export it as an open document spreadsheet, or they can come down to this one, show me any courses that haven't got a teacher in for some reason. And again, they can just instantly click on that to view it. So we've kind of built this dashboard. Hi, Sue. Yeah, Sue's working on SQL reports at the moment, so she's almost an expert already. You know, having that facility to quickly be able to see what's going on in the background and behind on the site is really important with this site. So what have we got at the moment then? Well, in terms of courses, we've got like more than 90 courses in English, 40 plus in Spanish, almost a dozen in Greek, and a smattering of other languages which are either open or in development. Last week we actually passed the 6,000 users mark, so there's 6,000 registered users on the site, and just over, I think, 150 courses at this time. Now, you know, I'll be honest, I can look at those courses and say, well, you know, all 150 of those are not brilliant, but I could quite happily say, you know, more than 100 of those are actually okay, which is good. It's a good start. And I can look at the users as well and say, well, you know, there's a lot of people there that have registered, probably played around for a minute or two. We can see that from the reports now, and then they haven't been back in 6 months. That's fine, you know, if it wasn't good enough for them at that point, or it wasn't what they were looking for, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, 6,000 users, and we really haven't promoted this anywhere other than at Moodle Moots. You know, we haven't paid for Google AdWords yet. We've got a Facebook page, and I think we've got a Twitter account, and possibly a YouTube or a Facebook. I don't know. I mean, it's fairly low key still. And that was on purpose because we wanted it to build slowly. We didn't want to try and do a big bang launch and then get 100,000 users overnight and not be able to cope with that. We really wanted for teachers to start getting in here, to start doing interesting things, and then for it to kind of organically grow, which it has done. Some of the challenges we've got, we do have a donations option on the front page. People can just donate on using PayPal, which obviously allows you to donate using a PayPal account or a credit card. It is worth mentioning that the organisation behind FreeMoodle.org, so FreeMoodle.org is totally funded and managed by HRD. So, I mean, it runs on our servers. Because we've got the server capability and we've already paid for bandwidth and et cetera, it was an easy thing, obviously, to set up on our servers. As someone said right at the beginning when I asked you, why do this? Because you actually can. You're dead right. We could and we did. The project itself, though, is actually within a trust. So there is an official trust with 4 trustees, and the trust is the Heidi Foxwell Educational Foundation. And there are 4 trustees, and the trustees are myself, Miriam, Heidi's mum, who lives in the UK, and Jane Shaw, who is one of our personal friends and also a well-known Moodler in New Zealand. So we have 4 trustees, and we actually achieved charitable status at the beginning of this year. So we turned the trust into a registered charity. That's good for a number of reasons. First of all, I think it gives a level of validity to what we're doing. It clearly says to people, look, this isn't a money-making exercise, cleverly designed as a community project. It really is charitable and just trying to do good stuff. And of course, it also allows us to apply for funding from things like the National Lottery. I'm sure that in most countries there are national lottery, foundations where you can apply for some funding for community benefit. So obviously it opens the way for us now to look at some of those funding options. Yeah, Kickstarter. There's a whole range of things that we can now start to look at, which is fine. But I have to say, if we never got $1 donation or anything, I'll tell you now that HRD, as long as it exists, is going to continue to fund this project. We are the underwriters, and that's going to continue for as long as we're in business. We do get some challenges. We were asked a question recently, I think from a guy in America, who said, if I have students on your site and they have grades and profiles and activity, that's subject to US privacy law. What can you do about that? And ultimately, we have to say, well, you're the teacher, you're the educator, you're the person that needs to understand the legal framework in which you are bound and working. If this isn't going to work for you, then don't use it. It's a shame. No one's going to force you to use it. If it doesn't work for you for some reason, and it's one of these reasons, then I'm sorry. We can't do much about that. It's for you to really make those decisions. So. Moving towards the end, who are we promoting to? Like I said, so far we've really just promoted it to Moodle teachers. We've promoted it during the iMoot. We've promoted it during Moodle Moots all around the world, in Greece and Italy and Spain and Indiana, Los Angeles, Vancouver in February. That was far too cold for me. I'm not going to go back to Vancouver in February, I can tell you that. We want to, we don't want to waste money on advertising. I'd be really dismayed if we have to sort of start spending $5,000 just to put an advert on Facebook. I'd rather it grows slowly and is not wasteful of money and doesn't go mad in terms of marketing. So marketing to the teachers, marketing to the market, to the Moodle teachers of the world for me is clearly the most targeted and the most useful at this stage. I think that will change over time. We gather some statistics on how people find the site, and a lot of people, who've maybe picked up on conversations on Moodle.org or from Moodle Docs, typically a Google search. I'm very pleased with this statistic, which is, almost a third of people are finding this because of personal recommendations. And, you know, in this world, despite all the adverts and promotions we can run, I still think that personal recommendations from colleagues are just one of the best things you can, you know, ever hear. You know, it really is a good thing, and I'm pleased. And I guess it also means that we're doing something well, that people want to recommend it to others. We do reject a number of course requests. We have a course request button. You can request a course at any time. We do reject, I would say maybe 20%, which is a shame. And the main reasons we reject them are because people haven't read the site policy, and they either just want a course for their own class, or they want a course because they're doing a teacher training course, or they want a course because, you know, basically, people need to read the site policy and understand what we're trying to do here. And when they do, then the courses get accepted. When they clearly haven't and clearly don't, then they get rejected. In the future, what we're going to do, as I said, I'd like to improve that study club, which is, you know, renamed the Learner Club now. I'd really like someone to come along and say, look, you know, let's put some work into that, and let's get that really interesting and useful. The same with the teachers community area, get more teachers collaborating, perhaps more guidance for best practice in course design. And remember, as I said, a lot of the teachers using this may never have used Moodle, or may have only used it for 6 months. They're not like a lot of you guys in the room right now that are Moodle experts. A lot of them are quite new. I'd like to make the site more visual, because I think that will reduce some of the language barriers. You know, reviewing general accessibility and usability and so on. I think they're important aspects. And we may, in fact, relocate the servers this year to the USA and Europe. And that's just a consequence of New Zealand networking capabilities not being that great. And I think it might make sense to actually move the site as we get to 10,000 or 20,000 users. I think it's going to be better located in another geographic location. This is just an example of some of the courses that are available there. Yeah, California, absolutely. It gives me a California. I could come over every year just to check that the server's working okay, couldn't I? It's a great idea. All sorts of different courses on here. I mean, I've just picked these at random. You know, artificial intelligence, a course all about pi ratio and beauty, which is quite cool. Something about the weather, nutrition for office workers. Film 101, which is one of the courses that was there earliest. I just love that course. I mean, it's all about film, and it goes through, you know, from Charlie Chaplin through to westerns, through to the modern technological films. Really fascinating if you like films at all. That's just really, really good. We're also going to have competitions. I'd like to get more people involved in collaboration. So rather than just having a teacher running a course for his group of students and maybe other people benefiting from that, I'd really like to see a teacher from the US and New Zealand working on a course together. Or, you know, I really think we're going to get further along the line here by having more collaboration with teachers. And so we're going to encourage that with various different strategies, which I'll mention in a second. And I also want to sort of come up with some way to reward just fantastic courses. Oh, Randy, yeah, that's yours. Thank you, of course. Good to see you here, mate. And I was thinking about the things, you know, that maybe inspired me as a kid. You know, things like music that are so important to you as a teenager, or dinosaurs, you know, when you're a kid, or space exploration. You know, the number of references to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Doctor Who during the iMoot has been quite interesting. So I'd really like to have people just writing courses that just fascinate them, because I'm damn sure they fascinate other people as well. And if we can just inspire, and these courses, I guess, aimed at kids and teenagers who maybe don't have access to technology or good teachers or even supportive parents, just education and learning for its own sake, is one of the things that can change your life. So let's try and encourage that and help that along. At the New Zealand Moot, we had a competition. We had the New Zealand Moot a couple of weeks ago, and we had a competition where teams who didn't know each other, they were sort of thrown together on the day, and they had to create courses in one day, pick a subject and work together on a course. And there's some links there, which of course won't work now I've converted this to an image, but you can go on and FreeMoodle and just look for those courses: Boats for Beginners, City Vegetables, and a Preschool Guide to Vegetables. Really cool courses, and it kind of shows you what people can do in one day, and that's something that I'd like to kind of support and carry on with. So the prize that we gave people at the Moodle conference for doing that, the winning team, which wasn't selected by me, it was kind of independent group of people, is we gave them all a Raspberry Pi. So they literally won one of these very, very cool Raspberry Pis. And I just want to say right now that if you're running a Moodle Moot or a reasonable size e-learning conference, and Moodle is a big part of that, if you can organise a cool course competition where teachers are actually collaborating to produce something, and if that can be done on freemoodle.org, then we will organise for you a Raspberry Pi as a prize, and we'll get your address and we'll have that couriered to you in time. Hopefully you can use that. I mean, I think the Raspberry Pi, that whole open source, and you can play with it and take it apart kind of thing. It's a nice little prize to give out there. So, let me know if you would like one of those and could use that in some way. How can you help otherwise? The most important thing, seriously, the most important thing you can do to help this project, if you think it's worthwhile, is to promote it through your own social networks and your professional networks and so on. There's that whole, is it 3 degrees of separation or 6 degrees of separation or something? In theory, we should be able to reach most people in the world just from the group of people in this room, I guess. If you are, that's an easy thing you can do, and we really appreciate that. If you would like to get involved and have a go, create a course, something that you're passionate about. It could be something that directly feeds into what you do with your own learners. It could just be something you want to do for fun, out of interest, And we're also starting to think about having people that are specialists who can become a country coordinator or a category coordinator. So maybe someone who is an expert or not an expert, someone who's got a really good science background could actually look after the science category and talk to the teachers who are producing science courses and sort of help them along in terms of what they're developing. I'm sure you can sort of get where I'm going there. Yeah, okay. And then that's it. I always say that. I try and produce everything with free and open source software. I asked the question at the beginning of the session and said, when we title this presentation, freemoodle.org, free hosting, is that what we should be saying, or should we actually be saying something different? Is it actually representing what this project is about? I'd be really interested to get your feedback on that. And of course, really happy to take any questions now. I can, shall I put my camera back on? I think I can put my camera back on. Really happy to take your questions or comments. Okay. Cheryl, no, I don't think so. It doesn't really touch. Yeah, the more I think about it, I think you're right. The less it should be called Moodle free hosting, because the free hosting might be misleading people into thinking that this is about setting up a whole site for free, and that's obviously not what it's about. So I think we need to Yeah, give it some thought, Judy, absolutely. And I mean, you can feedback in the forum in this course, or you can obviously email me, or whatever method you want to use really to get in touch. I like share your learning. You know, that's quite interesting because that's more orientated, isn't it, towards the community aspects, I guess. Um, Retired specialists. Oh, okay, that's an interesting one, Dot. Um, yeah, I don't know whether I heard something vaguely about that a long time ago. That's Moodle lumps. Yeah. Okay. Certainly something that interesting to look at that. So very happy to answer questions. Very happy to hand the microphone over if someone else wants to comment. Get older, we can start a list. Oh yeah, okay. So as we all retire, which for many of us who are, you know, mid-20s or close to mid-20s, we all retire and we'll all be on freemoodle.org writing courses to change the world. Wouldn't it be great to have that much time? Yeah, unfortunately we haven't got that much time. That's something to aim for in my retirement. I know what I'm going to do now. I was going to do painting or gardening, but I've just realised I'm just going to develop courses forever. Yeah, if we have no mortgage, absolutely, Teresa. You know, I'm really happy that we've got so many good teachers writing good courses right now, and you know, who knows where it will be in a year's time or 2 years' time. I think it's going to be a significant site. And I don't kind of know, in my head I'm thinking, is it going to be really significant when it gets to 10,000 users, or do we have to wait to 50 or 100? You know, it's kind of, it's such a great unknown. It's difficult to know what the end point is, and maybe there isn't an end point. Maybe that's the thing that I'm struggling with a little bit. Yeah. It's more about the learning, not the Moodle. Yeah, I think you're right. Good point can be a good point times. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I think I'm definitely gonna drop the phrase free hosting from this presentation in future. I think it can be freemoodle.org, open community collaboration. It sounds a bit airy fairy. It sounds a bit too soft. So yeah, please do continue to think about how we phrase this, because I think that would probably help. Oh yeah, we Moodle, you Moodle, we all Moodle together. Wasn't that was someone's presentation, wasn't it? That was good. Oh, the Babel fish badge. Oh, that's another Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference, isn't it? Liberate. That's interesting. Courseware for the community. And I think you know, it's whether are we do we need a name that actually works for teachers, or do we need a brand that works for teachers, or is it actually really more about the people learning? So is it freemoodle.org, learning forever and learning for free? Teresa, you want to see Heidi again? Yeah, I think that's a marvellous idea. I don't know how I can get back right to the first one. Oh, there you go. It's a little slider. That's clever. I haven't seen that before. Yeah, absolutely. Worth seeing Heidi. And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Teresa. She does inspire us, doesn't she? She certainly inspires me every day. And I know that inspires a lot of the people that, you know, Mary Ellen, and I know all the people that have worked with her. So, yeah, it'd be really good to keep that energy and that enthusiasm and that genuine desire to help others going. And I think this is a good way to go for that. Yeah. Foxwell University. Do you know, the thing with Heidi is she was what's that word? She would never. There was no ego with Heidi. There was no pushing herself to the front, or very, very, very modest approach to things, and even getting her to present. I think she's presenting in Canada there, and she presented in Australia and America a number of times. But even getting her to do that was pretty hard, because she was all about others, not pushing herself to the front. And Foxwell University, I can tell you that would horrify her, and she would be laughing wildly with that incredible laugh at that. So that's fantastic. Yeah. So so that's the presentation. Yeah, Foxy. Her dad's actually always called Foxy these days. Still, I'm sure he's carved his name onto a park bench where I live, actually, with the words Foxy on it. So that's the presentation. Hopefully, it's been useful. It's been interesting. And by all means, get involved, or even just have a look around and come back give us ideas, give us feedback, give us comments. Everything helps. This is going to go forward. It's going to get bigger, and it's going to get better. And I think it's going to be a really worthwhile project.
And before too many people disappear, obviously on behalf of the iMoot team, I want to say a thank you to Stuart. I hope you can all see why I was so keen to make sure that FreeMoodle we're back here again. I think projects like this are extremely important, and obviously you're hearing there's a whole bunch of people who knew Heidi directly and know the impact that this had on Stuart. I still, and I hope not to offend Stuart, but I always struggle to think of you and the FreeMoodle part that I think shows the impact that she had on many of us. So fantastic project. Please, everybody, get behind it. Visit the site, explore the courses that are there, think about courses you might be able to add, and remember there's a forum that's been set up here in this session course. So if you want to keep talking names, if you want to talk about how maybe you'd like to see these kinds of projects evolve, look, I'm sure we'd like to hear about it, and as I said, keep that conversation going. So thank you very much, Stuart, for coming. Thank you everybody else for attending. I hope you got as much out of it as I did, and enjoy the rest of iMoot. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. As always, thank you to the whole team behind this, giving us the opportunity to do this. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback and questions. And see you around the rest of the Moodle Moot. Cheers, guys.